I'm working on making some oil paints today. Just want to show you what I've done so far. Mostly with my foraged pigments, except of course for the blues. This is a synthetic ultramarine blue. And then I have added some titanium dioxide to some of these because it's useful, just like when you're painting with pastels, it's useful to have, with oil paints, it's useful to have colors that are mixed with white because you're going to do it on your palette anyway, so I might as well have some jars. I've been putting them, I found these little glass jars online with metal lids, and it's sort of the right size for a small amount of paint so that I can keep it airtight so it won't dry out. Depending on the pigment I use, some of these soil pigments that I've processed with water are very fine particles, and so they are easy to mix up on the marble plate that I have. But some of my pigments are ground up rocks, and those are still gritty by the time they get put in jars, which means they need the final grind on this frosted glass plate. So that's what I'm trying to get a little bit of a pink color today. So that's what I've got here. And it needs to be mulled up on this so these little particles get ground finer. So that is what I'm going to do now. I've just been using some linseed oil. Just dropping on what I need. And today I'm going to try using a rubber spatula. I've been, I use these, they're supposed to be stainless steel metal spatulas, but the problem I'm having if I do too much on the frosted glass is I'm actually grinding this down a little bit and it ends up in the paint. So little metal filings, I don't know if you can see, but that's when I first did the paint, and then at the end, by the time I'd scraped a bunch, can you see how much grayer that is? Those are little metal filings that have been incorporated into this paint. So I'm going to try the rubber and see what happens. And you can hear this, that it's gritty. Sorry, it's going to be loud. All right, let's see what color this is. It's not really ground up fine enough, but I can at least get an approximation of the color. That's actually kind of nice. You can see the little sandy particles in here because it hasn't been mulled enough. That's going to be a nice color. Okay, so now I've got this mulled up pretty smooth, so I am going to add some titanium dioxide to this to make it a little bit lighter. Right. Let's see how this probably will make it a lot lighter. But that's okay. I need a little bit extra oil. Okay, let's test that on some paper. That's actually a really nice color and darker than I thought it was going to be. Huh. All right, so I panned that one up as best I could. There's a lot of leftover on the plate here, but I'm just gonna use it. I do this a lot where I just use the leftover from something else and add another pigment to it, just to try to keep the waste at a minimum since I'm always making such small quantities. So this one shouldn't be as gritty. This is a second pour from a clay from a while back. It's kind of a similar color. I'm going to try to do this up so that I get a slightly darker paint. So we shall see how this one works. I don't know if I have enough oil here. No, probably not. So let's add a little more. Oh boy, I'm gonna need, this one has a lot of clay in it. And I don't know how some of these things are gonna behave as paint. Some of my pigments have quite a bit of clay in them and some of them don't. And I don't know if the clay will make a difference or not. But I definitely need more oil. And you can tell it's clay. It's stickier than the rock pigment was. I think this paint's gonna have some nice opacity to it, not just from the leftover titanium dioxide on the plate, but just because of what it is. Okay, I've got this almost mulled up enough. And it's kind of different than the other one was. It's goopier. I think that has to do with the clay. And again, I have no idea if this will affect how it is as an oil paint, if it'll stick to the paper or the canvas better or not as well. These are all things we'll find out as I experiment. But for now, let's check it out here color-wise. Pretty nice. Well, I panned that up and it didn't all fit in the little jar, so I'm gonna just add something else to this. This is a really dark, beautiful, almost purpley ochre from Carolyn Ross. So I'm gonna try adding some of this and see what happens. That's beautiful. Look at that. Just a little bit more oil. Okay, let's get see what that looks like. Wow, that's awesome. Okay, I'm going to do one more paint color. I'm going to make a dark sort of neutral, or try to make a dark neutral brown. This is the leftovers from the last paint I made, and whenever I mix blacks, I take my darkest blue and my darkest red and mix them together, and sometimes add a little green. Well, I've already decided I'm just going to use ultramarine blue in this grouping, so that's the blue I'm using, and actually this is the red I'm going to use. So that's what's on here, and let's see, I think I'm going to need a little more oil. Let's see how that looks. There we go, this is going to be good. So I'm going to test this. Probably will add a little more blue to it so that it's closer to black. I'll just show you what this looks like. It's a pretty good dark. All right, maybe I'll do one of these and one that's a little bluer. I've decided I need a couple more greens. So this is a Hudson, Wisconsin Green Earth clay that I got from my friend Terry Power. This one is a pigment I purchased from Kramer. It's a bluish green earth from Cyprus. And this one is a Russian green earth. This Russian green earth is a really nice color, and it's a little gritty, but mulling it up a little bit more hasn't really changed the color. Sometimes these green pigments, you get a better color if you leave them a little gritty, but I just went ahead and mulled this one up, and it's quite nice. Here's a... So this was the green earth from Cyprus. These are malachite watercolors. And then this is the Russian green earth, so it's a little bluer than this one. It's quite nice. Here are the results of my oil paint making over the last few days. Here's what they look like on paper. Pretty good selection of colors. Everything is a earth pigment, natural pigment. Most of them I foraged. A few I got from other people, and a couple I purchased. The exception is the ultramarine blue, which is a synthetic that I used to make some of these mixes. And I just grabbed an old piece of canvas, and I'm going to swatch them out on here, see what they look like, because they'll look on paper, the paper will suck the oil out of the bottom of them, so they'll look different than they do on a gessoed canvas. The only thing I did notice was that this one, which I made a few weeks ago when I was making the oil pastels, had developed a little bit of a skin on the top. Obviously the paint underneath is fine, but these aren't going to last forever in these little jars, so I will need to start doing some oil paintings so that I can use them up before they dry. So I am really pleased with these results, and I'm looking forward to making a few more colors.